Welcome into another edition of the Commitment Issues Podcast. I'm Woody Womack, joined by Rob Cassidy. Let's jump right into it. I'm sure everybody wants to hear about the biggest topics in the recruiting world. And, of course, we can't do this podcast without talking about Jim Harbaugh. I think we're contractually obligated to talk about Jim Harbaugh. I know I've been doing a lot of radio interviews and stuff like that. Everybody keeps asking me about it. So
look, man, but that's what he's going for here, right? Is to like keep his name in the headlines for recruiting and have people talking about him and have. I mean, we're playing right into it.
Okay, so for a while there, we had nothing but positive news. There was a lot of talk about him sitting in the tree and doing sleepovers and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden last week, there was a kid, I don't even know the kid's name, offensive lineman, who had been committed to the previous staff. And then, the Michigan staff that came in basically told him that they weren't going to honor his scholarship, which is something that happens all over the country and has happened maybe 5 times in the last 2 weeks here in the Southeast, but somehow no one seemed to care. But when it came to Harbaugh, there was a freak out, and I know you, off the air, in one of our conversations, you really went pro-school, pro-establishment. So let's kind of explain to people what happens when a player does get dropped and why it happens.
Well, I mean, why it happens for any number of reasons. It's not – the coaches are not being paid to – honor commitments. They're being paid to win football games. Is it ideal when a kid gets dropped this close to signing day? No. But everybody knows the stakes here. I've never gotten on a kid for committing and taking other visits because you got to keep your options open. And the same goes for a coach. You got to keep your options open. If you can improve your team and not get fired because you lost games, you have to do everything in your power to avoid being fired. And in today's modern, society, you have to win football games to avoid getting fired. And, by any means necessary, I guess. And I think the kids know the stakes when they commit. And I think the coaches certainly know the stakes when they pull offers and when they get commitments and kids visit. So, what's fair for one is fair for the other, I think. I wouldn't say I'm pro-school or pro-player. I just think that, in the modern day of recruiting, everybody knows the stakes. Everybody knows what's possible here. If you don't have a backup option, I think that you've done yourself a disservice if you're a coach or a player.
Well, so I think what sometimes happens, though, from the player side is, we, like you said, this sort of never stops for us. We do it year to year. Coaches do it year to year. But if a player doesn't have some type of advisor or some type of person that's involved in the process, they might not realize that they could get dropped. And I think that's where you see, like I said, there was in this, Georgia's dropped a couple players from their class. Darian Anderson, the wide receiver, I think he committed to Georgia Southern this past week. Randricus Davis, the 4-star wide receiver, Rivals 250 guy, he wanted to go to Georgia. Looks like he's going to go to Miami or South Carolina. Aaron Dowdell, who was a 4-star Rivals 250 guy, also out of the fold for Georgia. And it's not like they called him and told him, hey, we're not taking you. It's a lot of,
they just stop talking to you.
Right, when you're trying to hint to a girl that you're not interested anymore, and you kind of just
they ghost.
Stop.
That's what they call
stop. Ghosting. Turn on those red receipts and just stop answering. I think that's what a lot of coaches are doing to these players. So
let me ask you this, though. I'm interested in your response here because I certainly have an opinion, or else I wouldn't be asking the question. How much of this is the big deal that's been made of it is A, because it's Jim Harbaugh, and B, because it happened in the Midwest? Like you said, it happens in the Southeast all the time, and there's some false belief that Midwestern programs and Midwestern people are hardworking types whose bond are oak, which is, complete BS. But how much of it is because A, it happened in the Midwest, and B, it's Jim Harbaugh who is a lightning rod for controversy. People want bad things to happen to him. People want good things to happen to him. How much do you think each one of those factors plays into this being a big deal?
I'd say it's 80% Harbaugh or more, and then maybe 20% of the Midwest factor. Like I said, we had, even Tennessee dropped a player. He came out and tweeted that basically this wasn't my decision. And, I put a story up. It got some page views, but it was not, we're talking, it was PTI level stuff with Harbaugh. And it's just one of those things. It's just like you said, that's the cost of, doing all this other stuff to get attention, is that you're going to get some of that negative publicity as well. Like you said, and we've talked about this in other episodes, this is why fans should not get mad at players for taking visits. And then, and another part of it is the player gets dropped by the school. He has to come out and basically decommit. And then we see the fans on the message board being like, well, if he doesn't want to be here, we don't want him anyway. Well, a lot of times the kid did want to be there. But
your coaches didn't want him to be there.
Right. If a kid flips late in the process, is taking other official visits and decommits, then he wanted to leave. If the kid, as I mentioned with Dowdell, the kid committed to his only offer in February, didn't take a visit since then, and ends up, going to take an official visit to UCF this past weekend, which, we all know is a highly esteemed program down in Central Florida. And
great journalism school too, right?
Well, yeah, the Nicholson School of Communication, we like to call it. Speaking of which, I see one of my professors on Facebook, and he's always having people come back and speak to the class via Skype and stuff like that. I mean, we're talking, people who work at monthly magazines and stuff like that. And ever since I went to the Society of Professional Journalists Southeast Conference and told all the kids to quit working at the school newspaper, I've yet to get a call back.
yeah. I'm a big advocate of the school newspaper, man. I am, that's probably the reason I ever got my first job in the first place. So we differ there.
Here's what I said, and this is real quick, real school newspaper stuff. I say do it for a semester, get some clips, and go get an internship. That was don't become the editor-in-chief. If you're hanging around 4 or 5 semesters at the school paper, it's going to be rough for you to move on.
Sure, and we can move on after I take this little swipe, but I mean, it's pretty well established that the school newspaper at UCF really sucks though, right? Like the school newspaper at the A.Q. Miller School of Journalism is actually a very reputable paper.
Well, the paper at UCF is owned by Gannett, so for you journalism people, that tells you all you need to know. So moving on. Okay, so we're blaming Harbaugh. It's all his fault. We're joining the rest of the media horde. A player now who, Rob, this is a trend that has really been bothering you. So we're starting rants and recommendations almost a little early here with you complaining. Sam Bruce last night while you were at Monday Night Raw. Decides to go on the radio and announce that he's staying committed to Miami. So.
Yeah, you and I were texting about this, and it's not on Sam. I like Sam. I know why Sam did this. I'm not like, kids are going to be kids. They're going to announce that, when I was a kid, I would like the spotlight too. It's on people like you and me. I was texting you last night saying, I'm not covering this. I mean, it's not news. At some point, reporters that cover recruiting need to realize that a kid committing to a school he's been committed to for a year is not news. I love our fellow recruiting reporter brethrens, but news judgment isn't exactly at the forefront of this industry. That is not a headline. Like that, I don't know why that's covered. Sam Bruce still committed to Miami. I understand why he did it, but I don't understand why people are writing about it. He's been committed to Miami for a year. It's like me coming out and just something just like that. I can't come up with anything off the top of my head right now.
You're still committed to Rivals.com?
Yeah, I've been working here for 3 years. I still work here, guys. It's not, this is not a shock to anyone. And like I said, I know why Sam does it. This isn't a dig at Sam. It's more of a dig at, I saw 30 tweets and stories written about this, and I'm like, this is what you're spending your time doing? I'm out there watching The Rock electrify.
You jabronis hit the jackpot!
And people are writing stories. Other people are writing stories about a kid that's been committed for a year saying he's still committed.
Yeah, it's an interesting fad. I mean, it's...
And where does it end, though? I mean, where does it end? Can a kid do it 5 times and it's still a headline? Or is number 6 the magic number where it's like, all right, we're not going to write about the 6th time you say you're committed to Miami? If Sam Bruce came out and said he was committed to Miami every day for a calendar year, there are people that would write 365 stories about it. I mean, that absolutely would happen.
Well, the key would be would people keep clicking on him. People love Samborghini, a nickname that was given to him by our former colleague Keenan Codrington. Let's talk about what it means for Miami. This has to be Mark Richt's biggest recruiting victory so far, even though, like you said, it's just keeping a guy committed. I mean, I think a lot of people thought, especially when their wide receiver coach Kevin Beard was let go, that Bruce would be leaving. So from that standpoint, it was a little bit newsworthy. Do you feel like this is the big win for Richt that he needed?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Bruce has always been the linchpin of that class. We've talked about it. The other commits in that class kind of look to Bruce as the leader of that class. He's been committed forever. I think that it was a situation where if they would lose him before signing day, that they may lose some other guys too, and it would absolutely just kill morale in the fan base too, I think. I mean, I think Bruce represents something bigger than Bruce. Somehow this has happened. He's that kind of character kid with the big personality that kind of represents, it's got Miami fans excited that he's coming to their school and staying home. And he's the kind of kid where if he does slip away, all of a sudden morale takes a giant hit. Sam Bruce is bigger than Sam Bruce in this case, I think.
Boy, and Nick Kruger, our producer, and myself, who had Sam on our team at the 5-Star Challenge a couple years ago. What could have been if he wouldn't have cramped up in that championship game? I mean,
This is your version of I should have won state.
People are still talking about it. Yeah, if I didn't blow out my knee, I'd be playing in the NFL right now. So moving on, we got a couple of, it's signing day. Probably the next time we do a show, it will be our signing day show, which we're actually going to have a little commitment issues video version.
Signing day extravaganza.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty big. Our producer Nick Kruger will be making an appearance and actually hosting the show alongside me and you. We needed some sex appeal, so we wanted to get old Krug City on camera.
I'm going to wear a tie.
Are you going to wear a tie? We hadn't discussed a tie and no jacket, or we hadn't figured that out.
I might go Mr. Rogers tie and sweater. That's kind of my look.
Oh, jeez. Well, never mind about the sex appeal.
I'm appealing to the 70-year-old woman demographic here.
So we're going to be reacting live to commitments. We're going to be talking about everything that's going on. So we'll have plenty of promos for that. We'll probably actually record a promo that we'll release to the podcast audience as well. But we wanted to make some predictions on some top 100 guys, where they're going to land and why. We have a couple jotted down here. I guess I'll start since it's my guy, Mecole Hardman. The 5-star athlete. Seems like we talk about him. He's become the Jacob Eason of January with us talking about him every week. But he's down to. I think he still said Alabama was his leader today, which was interesting because he missed an official visit to Alabama. He blamed it on the weather. Nick texted me at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning to go get breakfast. So that tells you how bad the weather was between Athens and Tuscaloosa. So I'm not buying the weather excuse.
Yeah, you saying that kids sometimes name leaders that aren't their leaders? I'm appalled that you would. Yeah,
that's a disturbing trend. So anyway, he skipped the Alabama official visit. He ends up going to Georgia, which I don't think it was an official visit, although he did tweet something about staying in a hotel. So he made it up to Athens. I think we're all safe to say he's going to Georgia, although Ohio State insiders continue to quote anonymous sources saying that they're still a real factor, but I just don't see any scenario in which he doesn't end up at Georgia.
He's going to Georgia.
All right, done and done. So he's one of the first commitments on signing day, I think at 8:30 a.m. So we'll be talking about that for sure.
We can make the second one a little bit shorter because he's from my neck of the woods down here in Florida, and that's wide receiver Nate Craig Myers, the 4-star wide receiver from Tampa Catholic, who is down to North Carolina and some other schools that ultimately do not matter because Nate Craig Myers is going to Auburn. I don't think that there's any real discussion to be had here. I will be floored if he ends up anywhere else. It's not even really worth mentioning the other schools involved, I don't think. We'll see. I mean, I've been shocked before, but I would bet significant monopoly money on the fact that Nate Craig Myers lands at Auburn.
It is worth noting that he was committed to Auburn originally, so a while ago. I think he started the class as our number one overall player, actually, way back in I don't know what year we did the first rankings. I guess it would be after his sophomore season, just prior to his junior year.
The quick synopsis of Myers' recruitment was committed to Auburn originally. Florida State got real involved. Everybody thought that was the leader. Then Florida got real involved, and people thought that it was a done deal for him to Florida. And now it seems as though Auburn will be the eventual landing spot.
Now his brother, Javon Myers, also in the mix as well. Are we expecting them to go to school together and both end up at Auburn?
I think that that's a possibility. I think that Florida State is in play for Javon a little bit more than they are with Nate. I think that they've always wanted to go to school together. If that can work out at Auburn, I think that you'll see it happen.
They are half brothers, I believe, as well. So they didn't grow up living in the same house or anything like that. So going on to the next topic, Demetris Robertson, and boy, we're going to be talking about him a lot, Rob, because we're going in the long haul. Not only is he very unlikely to announce on signing day, it looks like we're headed to 2 or 3 weeks of me getting calls and text messages and doing interviews saying I don't know what's happening. I consider myself relatively dialed in, especially considering what I'm seeing from our competition. I'm not seeing a lot of people on the record. I always wonder, when I have direct quotes from the kid and his guardian, or Andrew Ivins, big shout, who works for our Notre Dame site's done a very good job. He talked to the brother, did an extensive conversation, and then we'll see somebody come out with sources are telling us this, and I just wonder, who are these sources? If you have people we have people on the record. And these anonymous sources are contradicting what people are saying on the record. So that's always an interesting...
Look, the anonymous here, let's peel the curtain back here. The anonymous sources in recruiting are always college coaches most times, right? Like, nobody else has a problem being named. Uncle Larry is not a credible source for a recruit half the time. So it's either coach being named, player being named, anonymous source is 90% of the time some college coach.
Well, big shout to my Uncle Larry down in Jupiter, Florida, where the home of Jerry Hamilton.
Jerry Hamilton loves Jupiter, Florida more than some people love their kids.
So anyway, getting back to Demetris, I know, boy, the Notre Dame fans had some pretty mean things to say about us last week, so they can't be loving this segment. But listen, Notre Dame very much in it. Personally, I think if I were making a prediction today, it would be for Notre Dame. I just think if it goes past signing day, he takes an official visit to Alabama, I think they're the school that ends up getting him. So if I'm Notre Dame, I'm pushing very hard for that fax to come across on National Signing Day, because if it goes past signing day, I think that opens the door for Nick Saban. We saw it last year with Roquan Smith, committed to UCLA on TV, ends up not faxing in the letter. It goes past signing day, and he ends up at Georgia. So being for the long haul, Notre Dame fans, you're going to be listening to me every week. I'm going to be embedding this podcast on your message board. So we love the Notre Dame site. We love the passion on all the rival sites. That's how we pay the bills around here, off of fan passion. So that'll stop those predictions for us now. But let's get into a little individual talk. I think you and I had a combined piece that came out on Wednesday. I don't know what day of the week today is. Is today
Today is Tuesday.
I don't know what day it is. Okay, so you'll probably be hearing this on a Wednesday or Thursday. But so the article came out on Tuesday. A little bit of a snapshot of where things stand SEC-wise for recruiting, and the team we decided that could close the strongest is Ole Miss. You wrote that section, so kind of tell us why you think Ole Miss is in for maybe a big finish to this class.
Well, I think it's possible. I don't know that I think that they're definitely in for it, but they've got enough irons and enough fires that you'd think that something would break their way when it comes to guys like A.J. Brown and Nigel Knott and even Jeffrey Simmons, who's the 5-star that's going to visit there over the weekend. Hugh Freeze has proven enough, and this staff has proven enough and been good enough recruiters to think that there's no way they miss on everybody that's still out on the board for them. I mean, that would be, I think, tragic if you're going to ask an Ole Miss fan if that took place. I think that there's just, it's the law of averages at some point. Where one of these dudes is breaking that way. I don't think it'll be A.J. Brown necessarily. It's going to be mighty hard to pull him out of Starkville, I think. But Jeffrey Simmons is definitely an option. Even some of those California kids. I'm not as plugged in as Adam Gorney, who covers the West Coast for us, to the Minke Juarez situation, but he's kind of in play. I don't know that they're expecting to land him, but I think that they're in that sweepstakes at least, correct?
Yeah, I was actually on the Rebel Grove podcast today for but they had me on for 30 minutes. I mean, it was a real lengthy conversation.
Yeah, you were definitely second. You were definitely second choice on that one. I woke up to a text message asking me to be on there, and I slept through it. so you must have been my backup. I hope that was great for you.
We can't all sleep into noon every day like you, Rob. Some of us are of grinding. I'm known throughout the industry for getting up sometime around 10 o'clock every day.
Look, man, Monday Night Raw was not going to watch itself in Miami last night. Somebody had to attend.
So wait, did you go to Monday Night Raw and then also record the show and come home and watch it, or no?
No, I went. I recorded it because I record it every week, but I have not watched it on television, no. But The Rock was there, and it was, everybody was happy.
Right, so anyway, getting back to Ole Miss. So I was on the show. Ole Miss thinks they're still very much in it for Juarez. I know there's been some rumblings about Alabama. That seems to be what Adam Gorney thinks. But he's our West Coast and national analyst. But I personally think Ole Miss is in it. I think it's Ole Miss or UCLA. And, if he leaves, I personally think Ole Miss has a better shot than Alabama. That's just me based on the rumblings. So some of the other guys, you mentioned A.J. Brown. He's going to be announcing at his school, which is Starkville High School. home of Mississippi State. I can't imagine him having a big announcement, assembly style or something like that, and then have him commit to Ole Miss
to the rival. Yeah, that'd be tough. I mean, you want to talk about your all-time bad guy wrestler moves? I mean, that's just like a heel move. He rips off the Ole Miss shirt to expose his Mississippi State undershirt.
Yeah, that would be great. And then he grabs the mic and says he's makes fun of the cowbells or something on his way out of the building. real Macho Man Randy Savage type situation there. But Terrell Hall, who's a 5-star. I'm told he does exist. I can't remember. Was he at the Under Armour game? Oh, he was. He was on crutches, right? At the Under Armour game.
Mm-hmm. He was hobbling around, but we can confirm that he is a person that exists on this planet. So that's good.
Okay, so he's a 5-star. He was at Alabama this weekend. I think Adam Friedman, the famous shifts on your list quotee, has a story up with Terrell Hall talking about Alabama. So many more names. Deontay Anderson, you mentioned. Jeffrey Simmons, the 5-star. So, like you said, they're going to close with a few of these guys. I don't think it's going to be like 2013 where
everybody in the world picks Ole Miss.
Yeah, that was so crazy. It seemed like that was UCLA last year. But, yeah, I think Ole Miss gets a few guys. I think they close really strong. And, I really thought I like Shea Patterson a lot. I think, with him being the guy, I think we're going to see Ole Miss kind of be hanging around and challenging Alabama over the next few years. So, a commitment I wanted to talk to you about a little bit, Rob, from my neck of the woods. Marquez Callaway, a guy from Warner Robins, Georgia, was actually scheduled to visit Ole Miss this weekend, and I think he canceled it after he committed to Tennessee. And, we actually caught some flack from the Tennessee fans because there wasn't a story on the front page of Rivals. They were upset that a top 100 guy committed, and we didn't push it out front, and that was probably my fault because I didn't write a story. Our Tennessee site had a story ready to roll, and I was not feeling well that day. So when we talk about Callaway, you saw him with me in San Antonio, but this is a problem, an issue I wanted to discuss. The city of Atlanta, we're about an hour away from Athens, probably 45 minutes. Obviously there's a lot of alumni here in the Atlanta area. There's a lot of media too. The problem is it seems like the media has become so Georgia-focused that a kid like Callaway, who's ranked in the top 100, if he commits to leave the state, it's almost like just a drop in the bucket. Not a lot of people seem to be giving it attention.
Wait, are you suggesting that the larger Atlanta media are Georgia fanboys, or are you suggesting that they just ignore these kind of things because it doesn't move the needle?
Yeah, I just think they're catering. I think there are some Georgia fans, and I have heard from several players that they feel like some media outlets, even not recruiting outlets, traditional media outlets, are pushing them to Georgia, which I thought was an interesting thing. I wish I could do a story on that, but I don't think that would go over well.
You don't say.
But my point is, he's a great pickup for Tennessee. I think they should be pretty happy with a two-way player like him, and like I said, a guy ranked in the top 100. Who really wasn't getting looked at by Georgia at the end, but you're getting a guy out of the state, especially South Georgia, where we've seen a lot of NFL players come out of. So I like the addition there. So let's give the Tennessee fans some props, and then kind of roll forward into another topic, legacies. Rob, I know you didn't follow in your dad's footsteps. He was not a great recruiting, recruiting.
No, he was not.
My father, of course, as we've discussed, was a logger because I'm from Oregon and I'm very stereotypical Oregonian. My dad had a logging business and a reforestation business. Nigel Warrior, he's Dale Carter's son. Now, Dale Carter, a very famous Tennessee player. Nigel is a top 100 safety. And a lot of people assume, hey, he's going to go to the school because that's where his dad went. What's your take on that angle and that line of thinking from fans, and kind of how important is that for these kids, especially the ones that maybe didn't grow up in the same house as their dads?
Well, like every family's different, and every family dynamic is different. I think for some kids, yeah, that's a huge deal. Look at Declan Metcalf, who's going to Ole Miss. I mean, there was never really an option there. You know, he was going to follow his dad. I think that Ben Davis's dad, who played at Alabama and is their all-time leading tackler, the 5-star linebacker, has everything to do with this commitment. He's going to Alabama, but plus, kids in Alabama are different. They hardly ever get out of the state anyway. And then you look at other guys, like in my neck of the woods, Chad Wilson's oldest son, who's at Florida now, and he's got a younger son, Marco Wilson, and Chad went to Miami, who is looking around at other schools as well. It's really about the family dynamic, I think, and I think some parents are a little pushier about their alma maters as others. Some kids are a little bit more susceptible to some things as others. It's really hard to kind of put kind of a standard stamp on this because of how different these dynamics are in every household, in every situation, with every school.
Right. When it comes to Warrior, I think that needs to be discussed because, like I said, I mean, some of the like you just mentioned, some kids are closer and they want that legacy. They want to follow in the footsteps. Others are not. I mean, it's just a matter of so my advice for fans is let's not put that blanket over. Hey, the kid's dad went here. So the kid's coming here as well. So I think I would caution recruiting fans against that. With that being said, Warrior, a guy who is kind of all over the map. We're hearing Tennessee. They're getting the last visit. We're hearing Alabama. We're hearing Georgia. We're hearing Auburn. And he's done a really good job of keeping it close. He's not a guy that likes to talk to the media. I've always used the word surly to describe him, and it's not in a bad way. I don't think he's not mean to the media or anything like that. He kind of always just he plays the game with like an edge to himself, and he kind of conducts himself like that as well. So he's really keeping people guessing. I think if I had to make a choice, I would pick Tennessee. From what I was told, Alabama's not feeling super confident. I really don't think Georgia's that big of a factor. And then Auburn tried to get in late. So that's my pick there. That kind of ties into the Rivals 100 decisions and gives us a nice Tennessee segment. The Tennessee fans didn't really click on the podcast last week, so we'll be tracking
it's because they hate you with the bloodlust of 1,000 vampires.
Well, that's true. The Tennessee fans maybe don't always don't always love me, but hey, what's not to love, people? I mean, come on. I don't know why. I don't know why anybody would single me out, but
yeah, it's kind of the Florida State fans have got it in for me too. So,
well, I think I have a theory on that, but it's not something we can talk about on the podcast. So, next topic, Rob. Now, a lot of people don't realize that before you came to God's country to cover recruiting here in the Southeast, that you were. I don't know, somewhere in flyover country. I can't remember where you live, but you covered the JUCO reigns.
Yeah, I was in Dallas. I was in Phoenix. I've been around a little bit.
Right. So places that Southwest stops on their way to LA to drop off people, bus style.
Places with good tacos and bad teeth.
So anyway. Tyron Jones, he was a former Alabama player. He was actually one of Nick's favorite high school players to go watch because he's a real tough-nosed running back. He was a top 100 guy, I think, in 2013. He goes to Alabama, gets in a little bit of trouble, ends up at JUCO, and he committed to South Carolina this past week. He was a 3-star. And I had tweeted something about how it's a high risk, high reward guy because you don't know if he gets back into trouble or something like that. But I wanted you to kind of enlighten people about the JUCO process and more importantly, why it's always kind of a risk when you take a JUCO guy because you don't end up at JUCO by accident.
Yeah, there are different kinds of junior college players. I mean, you've got your junior college players that end up there because of grades and not qualifying out of high school. You've got your junior college players who, for whatever reason, don't get along well at the first school that they went to and are there taking their 1-year sabbatical before they can transfer to another FBS school. Then you've got your JUCO players that have the grades, wanted to continue playing football, and just went unrecruited completely in the high school process and found a place to play a couple more years, try to get some exposure and get up to that next level. And I don't think you can pigeonhole any of those kids. I mean, every kid is different. Just because you don't have the grades doesn't mean you're a bad kid. Just because you didn't get along at your first stop doesn't make you a bad person. But it is a little bit of a risk because like you said, I mean, you don't end up there for no reason a lot of the time. I think sometimes kids end up there just because they've gone overlooked or because for whatever reason the depth chart didn't work out and they wanted out. There's a lot of good reasons why you end up there, but for every one of those, for every 10 of those, probably you have one that's just kind of a bad seed. So you take a little bit of a risk as far as work ethic and as far as, if you'll get a malcontent. But these coaches put in some, I think some schools recruit junior colleges a little bit heavier than others and have those relationships with JUCO coaches. In my experience, JUCO coaches don't have very long fuses for BS. If a kid is not coachable or is, for lack of a better word, an a-hole, a JUCO coach will tell me that. They will definitely tell an FBS coach that. Like, hey, this kid's not going to work out because he's just, just a jerk. They are not shy about telling you that. And I'm sure they're not shy about telling other coaches that. So that weeds some of them out, I would suppose. But like you said, it's kind of like drawing straws. Sometimes you get the short straw, sometimes you get the long ones. For every Cam Newton you get a guy that, washes out. Like we had a guy, can't remember his name now, ranked pretty high that went to Kansas a couple of years ago that ended up, getting in a little bit of trouble with the coaching staff there and washed out before his first season there was over. So you never know what you're going to get.
Speaking of washed, I mean, anybody who goes to Kansas is taking their lives into their own hands going to play football there.
Well, I mean, at that point, Charlie Weiss he was on the way out. He was recruiting anything he could get his hands on. And all those junior college in Kansas makes it mighty easy to take 14 JUCO players in one class, which he did. It might have been 16, actually. And that they're still paying for that.
Yeah, that gutted their whole development going forward. So that is one of the downfalls of taking JUCOs. And again, a guy's got a little bit of time to come in and adjust, and I think that's one of the reasons why we see guys maybe not work out. We have seen, Auburn is a school that's taken a lot of prominent JUCO players. You mentioned Super Cam, friend of the podcast, Cam Newton, of course, and then they took Duke Williams, who kind of started out great and then just, burned out badly, got into some trouble. I think he punched one of his teammates in the face. And then this year they had Jovan Robinson, who got off to a rough start, wasn't getting along, and then by the end of the year he was their leading rusher. So
he was I believe he was our number one junior college player in that class, as ranked by Rob Cassidy.
Yeah, exactly, and close with somebody else who will not be named on this podcast that I really don't get along with, that you've been dealing with part-time. So I don't know if you even know that story. It might be a mystery for sometimes Rob and I play the good cop, bad cop angle, with me being the bad cop in about 99% of the interactions, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. You're more tailor-made to be the bad guy wrestler. I'm definitely the face in this rivalry.
All right, so, when we talk about South Carolina, I mentioned a lot of those guys. If we go down their commitment list and you see a lot of these players who got early offers and then ended up, kind of just, us forgetting about them a little bit. And so it's been interesting to see Will Muschamp go in and kind of grabbing these players and maybe taking chances. But, you look at their class, it's actually pretty good. I think it's actually, especially when you compare it to some of the ones they've had in years past, I think they've done a really good job, especially in a limited time. They do have a lot of 2-stars committed, which, I guess that's my fault.
Your fault.
It would be their fault for recruiting those guys, but they do have some guys that can play on that team, and I like the chances they're taking because if the guys don't work out, they end up at JUCO or something like that down the line. So we give South Carolina some credit there. So last but not least, Nick and I worked on a special project this week. It was actually a commitment video. We've seen these videos get more and more elaborate. This was Jaden Hunter, who was a 2017 4-star legacy. If you haven't seen the video, you can find it on Rivals.com. Of course, you could tweet at us, and we'll gladly share it. It was an excellent production by Nick, who did a lot of the work.
Yes, just more of Superman producer Nick Kruger. He does it all, man. Audio, video.
Gets yelled at by you.
It's yelled at by me. Professional wrestling fandom extraordinaire. That's where Nick and I bond.
You're fired!
Right, he does it also. So check that video out. But I wanted to ask you, Rob, about the elaborate announcement procedures we see traditional grumpy media, the kind of media that complains about uniforms hurting their eyes. We've seen them.
I'm sure that's really a thing that happens. Those uniforms legitimately hurt my eyes. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, well, how about the ketchup and mustard game in the NFL when the Rams played the red team, and there's a lot of ketchup and mustard jokes flying out there. But anyway, what do you think of these announcements and kind of the different role they've taken on, and more, of course, our role, we play it up as much as anybody because that's what we do. But do you think it even matters? Personally, I think the kids should do whatever they want. I don't think.
No, yeah. Here's my thing. The only thing that people that are going to get mad about this are crusty reporters that think, I don't know, that feel like they need to shake their fists at millennials or whatever it is that people do these days. All the spotlight. It's all about you. In my day, it was all about the name on the front of the jersey. It's all BS. Those people, and then the fans of rival schools are really going to be hoping you fail if you're a player that does one of these elaborate commitment announcements. Other than that, nobody else should care. Nobody's making you watch this video. I mean, it's not like your eyes have been held open like Clockwork Orange and you've been forced to watch this kid's video. Just don't click it. I guess I'm not one to shake my fist. I'm pro-millennial as a millennial myself. Everything should be about me. I firmly believe that. And so I'm on board with these kids.
I'm barely a millennial, but yeah, I'm right there with you. I actually, the one thing that I don't agree with is when they throw the other hat. Say they pick up a hat and then throw it down or something. I'm not a fan of that. There was actually a video. I did a story last year that was the top 10 announcement moments, and it was this guy it was on like Fox Sports Arizona or something. And the guy picked up the hats and threw them off. I think he ended up going to Arizona State and kind of being a bust or whatever. But the video is great. I mean, I was still laughing at it, just thinking about it. But I don't have a problem with it. If you have a problem with it, like you said, you're probably not listening to this podcast. I would imagine
unless you're just really masochistic, just I hate follow recruiting.
So anyway, I'm all for it. Let's bring some live animals in. I hope we get. I'm trying to think of.
I want a kid to light all the other hats on fire. Bring out a blowtorch, put the 5 hats, and then blowtorch the 4 hats that you're not picking. I mean, let's really go that guy. Let's set these things ablaze, and then the one that you don't burn into ashes is the school that you've chosen.
You want to talk about people not showing some class? I think there'd be some.
I'd be cheering like I was cheering for Ted DiBiase. That would be my favorite football player.
There would be some super angry people. I don't know. I'd like to see some type of food one integrated. Maybe some pies or.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
You know how they do the birth reveals?
Yeah,
the cake and it's the color. I'd like to see somebody cut into the cake and have it be the color of the school they're going to. We've seen the custom cakes.
Look, man, as a veteran couch burner in college, I'm all for anything that involves fire. So, anything that gets lit on fire, I support completely.
Couch burner.
I burned so many couches in college, Woody. So many. I've burned more couches than I've probably owned. That's serious.
All right, you can hear more about that on our special couch burning podcast, which airs bi-monthly. A quick plug for everything that we're doing. We mentioned the Commitment Issues Signing Day Extravaganza. I don't think that's what it's officially called, but that's what we're calling it right now. It'll be me and Rob and Nick with our faces on television, or at least on your computer screen. Hopefully, we're in negotiations, Rob, to have a live announcement take place during that show. So,
man, I didn't even know that until now. I'm out of the loop. Also, we should probably plug Dave Barry, who will be doing a lot of the video work for that Commitment Issues special on signing day.
Yeah, hopefully we can get him to come in front of the camera a little bit. He's a little camera for someone who works in the video biz. He's a little camera shy, but he's a good-looking guy.
Especially for a good-looking guy with such a chiseled jaw. You'd think that he would want to be in front of the camera.
Well, he does have a chiseled jawline, but he cannot play defense in basketball, as witnessed by the multiple 3-pointers I torched him on after the Cleveland camp as we played outside in Cleveland, Ohio, at some random playground. So check that out. Check out, of course, our Twitters. Rob is at Cassidy_Rob. I am I am Rivals Woody. Of course, email us, rivalspodcast@yahoo.com, or tweet at us at rivalspodcast. So, Rob, we have, of course, wait, one last thing. Don't forget iTunes. We need those iTunes reviews. We've been stagnant lately. We haven't gotten many iTunes reviews. I know our listenership is going up, so people, go leave us a review.
Yeah, even if you're a Notre Dame fan that wants to make a reference to American Horror Story and that whole ordeal, by all means, go and give us 1 star.
Oh, no. We don't need bad reviews. We need good reviews only.
Give us 5 stars and curse at us in the comments then.
Somebody did give us 4 stars, and I forget what the comment they made was, but it was the only review we didn't get that was 5. So let's move on. We got Rants and Recommendations, the favorite segment, what people talk about every week. We're going to have to start with you, Rob, because I didn't write anything down. I have to think about something to complain about.
Look, man, I've got a recommendation. I have been watching the television show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which is a modern-day musical. It has got a terrible name. Let me tell you what. When you hear that name, you think it's going to be like some playing into all that like weird sexist stuff about crazy ex-girlfriends, but they kind of turn that on its head a little bit, and I think play with that idea. And it ends up being kind of a smart show with some really funny moments and some funny songs. It's kind of like it's a musical, but it's also a wink at musicals. If you like Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt and shows of that nature, I think you'll like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I can't think of the actress's name, the lead actress, but I think she's great in it, and it's got a good cast and some really smart writing, surprisingly smart writing for a show with that title. I mean, that is just an all-time bad television show name.
Well, she won the Golden Globe for that, and the show was originally supposed to be on Showtime. So you're talking about a high-quality show that ended up on the CW, which is a favorite of the podcast hosts here. We both watch shows on the CW. My question for you with the musical: how much singing goes on? Because I can't deal.
I'd say there are probably about 3 songs an episode, but they're not like all of these songs come with a wink, if that makes sense. They're not like straightforward musical songs as much as they're kind of satire, kind of winking at the fact that they're singing a song, if that makes sense. I don't want to like ruin or spoil anything because that's not really my thing. But by all means, I wouldn't be talking about it right now if I didn't recommend tuning in and checking it out. I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised.
All right, I want to recommend, of course, I did recommend a CW show a couple of weeks ago on iZombie, which I'm officially caught up on. Very good show there. And I would also like to recommend, Rob, another podcast. It's the second time I've done this. I've been listening to the Vertical podcast with Adrian Wojnarowski, our colleague at Yahoo Sports. Obviously, by far the best NBA reporter. It's not even close. I don't think there's any. And that's not even us saying that because we work for Yahoo Sports. Obviously we know that Woj runs the show, especially NBA trade deadline coming up. And his show, actually, he's got a very good radio voice, unlike the two of us. He sounds like a radio host on his podcast. He asks a lot of insightful questions.
Yeah, but he sounds like a good radio host, not like a morning zoo radio host, right?
Right, yeah. Well,
hey, let's go to Jim the intern in the parking lot who's dropping cow feces from a helicopter.
I think there used to be a thing in my hometown where there would be a contest where you'd have the cow walk around in the football field, and there would be different. You'd buy a number, and the number would be placed somewhere. Wherever the cow pooped, you would win said raffle. Have you ever heard of anything like that? You're from Kansas.
No, I'm betting I'm not from Kansas. I spent some time in Kansas. I bet that there's a lot of chewing tobacco present at this promotion.
Well, I already talked about how I distributed tobacco to minors by ordering it from magazines. So there was tobacco. But keep in mind, I was a minor at the time. I also used to steal coffee grinds from my parents and sell it to people as tobacco.
You are a truly bad dude, man.
It was really just coffee. So in terms of something, the Vertical podcast, you can find that on iTunes, and I believe a special Woj's own NBA website will be launching on Yahoo Sports sometime soon. So be on the lookout for that as well. In terms of something to complain about, do you have anything?
No, my life is all rainbows and lollipops, and it's just a wonderful time to be Rob Cassidy right now.
I don't have a whole lot of complaints either, or at least nothing I can think of on the top of my head. So you get out of hearing me complain this week, people. If you want me to complain about something, tweet it at me, and I'll gladly give you a call on the phone and complain. So
give me your phone number, and I will call you and scream at you.
As Rob and Nick can attest, I do a lot of complaining off the air, and it usually starts with the problem is, and then I go into
no. Actually, it always starts with listen, and then you jump in.
Listen, here's the thing. I also like to say here's the thing quite a bit too when I'm complaining. So anyway, I'm going to complain about my lack of complaining this week. That wraps it up for us.
Listen, we got to wrap this up.
Big shout to M. Deuce, who, by the way, also now produces the theme song for the Irish Illustrated podcast. So Notre Dame fans getting an extra dose of Commitment Issues music, courtesy of M. Deuce. You can find him on SoundCloud, and we're going to hopefully use some of his music maybe during the show on signing day. He sent us some new mixes, Rob, so be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, that's exciting. I like what he's done with our show, even though I kept calling him J Deuce for the first 2 episodes of this podcast. I apologize to Mr. M, to Mr. Deuce for
Mr. M is named Mark. If you knew him in real life, you would not call him J Deuce, and he's also a graduate of Cottage Grove High School. Big shot, class of 2001. 15-year reunion coming up, Rob.
I'll be there with bells on, man. You guys don't remember me? I'm that guy.
All right. Yeah, with your New York accent, I'm sure that you won't do it to trick any people. That wraps it up for us. We'll be back. National Signing Day, 1 week away. Be on the lookout.
Listen.
You jabronis hit the jackpot.